I give you a little bit so you're like, who is this guy? Why is he here? A little snapshot of me. My wife and I have been married for 15 years. Like Jason said, I'm the lead pastor at Forefront Church in Virginia Beach, but that's not how I originally started in occupations. I actually was a student pastor before that, and before I got into ministry and started following Jesus, I was in the world of graphic design, video production, mainly helping out in the tattoo industry, making all sorts of ads and videos for tattoo conventions and studios. And so if you want to talk about that later, we could talk about it. But it was great and it was fun, and then I met Jesus, and then I met my wife, and then we had 3 kids, and everything changed. And those of you guys who have kids, you realize the moment you have kids, everything changes drastically. We have 3 daughters. Right now they are 11, 9, and 4. They all look like their mother, and we're very thankful for that. And they are absolutely great. But the moment that we handed our daughter a phone for the very first time, it made me go, oh no. We were in a mall in North Carolina. I was speaking at a student ministry conference, and my wife had surprised me with going to the Apple store to change over from Verizon to AT&T, who was the only one carrying the original iPhone. And so we walked in there, and she said, hey, I already set up an appointment. We can walk in there, and you can get. I was like, oh, babe. And she scored big points with that. And we walk in there, we get the iPhone, they unbox it, they change over my number, and I take my very first picture was of my daughter. It was around, the mall was decorated like Christmas, and I took a picture, and I saw her face, and the moment that I turned it so she could see it, that's when we knew screens were going to revolutionize the way that we do things. It was my very first smartphone. She wanted to grab it. She wanted to touch it. She wanted to move and just manipulate all the things in it. That was when we started downloading games, and there was a bubble pop thing, and she would sit for hours, if we would let her, popping the bubbles. And it was one of those things that we just go, man, I don't know that this is a big deal. Nobody had taught us anything about that. No one had ever said, as soon as we hand you this device, there's going to be a lot of residual ripple effects that you're going to experience. They were just like, no, there's this new shiny thing, and all of us went, sign me up. Steve Jobs, you are our digital savior. Let's run out to a store and buy a device. And that's what people did. They went from iPods to iPhones, and if you're Team Android or Windows Phone, if that's still a thing, everybody started grabbing these devices. And it changed us so immensely. And we're going to learn a little bit about how this changed this. Tonight, this isn't going to be one of those where I'm going to give you that silver bullet that you'll just go, all right, as a parent, as a couple, whether we have kids, you have grandkids, influence over young people, that somehow, some way, this is the end-all, be-all, because it's ever-changing. Even as you arrive, from the moment that we get done, there's going to be things that are different in many of the apps that teenagers and young kids are using each and every day. And so what we want to talk about tonight are really some principles about how you and I can set the right boundaries, not to be anti-technology. I love technology. Teaching from an iPad, I got an iPhone timer, I got my digital watch, I have a laptop in my book bag, and all of my girls have a device. But how do we set the boundaries in place so that they don't go down a road that could really, really impact not only the way that they view society and the way that they engage other people, but even into their work future, their married life, and beyond. And so I want to talk a little bit about, before we get into your fill in the blank, how many OCD friends do we have? I'm OCD. Any of you guys? I see a couple of you like, I don't want to out myself. You're like, yeah, I will make sure we fill in all the blanks, okay? And so we will get to all of them. We're going to unpack this stuff. But before we get into the fill in the blank, I want to tell you a little bit about why. So if you open up to those first 2 pages, we're going to look a little bit about the why, because it's interesting. And I don't want to insult your intelligence, but sometimes we need to hear things out loud, even though you may have already perused the booklet when you arrived. Because look at this. Young people, age 13 to 26, engage their devices 3+ hours every day on average. And most people that are around a teenager or a tween, especially those tweens, goodness gracious, they're like, I just want all the devices. I want to sit there all day and watch YouTube, other kids play games, which is bizarre to me, until we're like, oh, kids are ridiculous. I can't believe they watch other kids do stuff, till we adults sit and watch other people buy homes on TV and renovate homes. And we realize, oh, that's not so weird after all. And so they engage that. Now everybody's like, can't shout at my kids anymore. But here's the deal. Adults 27 to 55 average 2.5 hours. And the newest data that's beginning to come out, if you want to scratch out that top hour and add 2 more hours to each of those statistics, to both teenagers and adults, the newest data is pointing to that doubling here in 2019. And so this is absolutely huge, this engagement that's happening. One of the things that's happened is a rise in anxiety. That next piece there in that paragraph, it just says, listen, young adults, it was 18% early in 1985. In 2016, it reached an all-time high of 68%. When they were interviewed, over half said social media led to comparison anxiety. My friend posted a picture, and they were doing stuff that looked really cool, and I feel like I'm not measuring up. And so I start to get anxious about things. And for some of us as adults, we might find that silly until we begin to think about the vacation that a friend posted on Facebook, and they went away with their family, and then we think, why couldn't I been and do something like that or go to these places? It's very natural inside of us to do these comparisons. One of the things that we see in that next paragraph there is that Snapchat in 2018, how many of you have a kid that had or has Snapchat? Anybody? Yeah, so quite a few of you. Did you read this paragraph yet? Announced in 2018 the launch of a late-night live adult channel. It was prominently placed in the Discovery tab. But following the outrage of parents, it was quickly removed. How many of you had no idea that that even existed during that time? I'll raise my hand because I was included in that. These are these things that we don't even understand. Also, apps like Snapchat, Instagram, Kik, container-style apps are cited in over half of disciplinary issues in high schools in the United States. When I say a container app, what I mean is it looks like a calculator or an image app. And then all they have to do is swipe a certain way or type in a code, and it opens up a back end of the app where they can hide photos and links. Well, what's happened is students are trading photos of other students, and I'm not talking about ones where they're in the yearbook, and they're trading photos. This is moving into the realm of, and it's being charged across the country with child pornography. And they're being charged as adults. And if they're sending it to other friends, it's then distributing it. And it is absolutely huge. It's one of the number one things happening in high schools around the country. And so these apps, while all the different app manufacturers and people that are managing the app stores are trying to hunt them down, every day over 5 to 6 dozen apps like these find their way into app stores, and kids get to download them. And they're moving around the information much faster than you can ever keep up with it. This stuff is daunting. This is probably the most difficult one. The Association of Teachers and Lecturers have seen a rising percentage of children ages 5 and under that are unable to perform simple tasks, such as building with blocks, and this is big words, but we're going to unpack it. The overexposure to tablets and phones, which has impacted basic developmental dexterity. Simple terms, when they did this study, they found when they sat down young children with blocks, that instead of building, they began swiping the sides of them. They didn't understand what it meant to build with blocks at a young age because they had sat with devices so frequently. So as we look at this and we say, hey, how can we manage this and do this? If you go to that next page there and just no fill in the blanks yet, look at that employers page and let the facts speak for themselves with the little footprints. Employers check information about prospective candidates online. 34% of candidates in 2016 in a 2016 study were disqualified because of their digital footprint. I know the lead hire headhunter for Food Lion. She goes to our church. And she said, when I taught this class, and she has 2 little boys, she said, you could up that by about 45%. She said the number of candidates that apply for Food Lion stores that they have to axe because they check the footprint of their employees. They said, they're great. We just can't hire them because they're racists, sexists, bigots, that they move through all this and they go, we can't have anything to do with them as an organization because we know the moment that they do something wrong in their job, it's going to come back that we hired someone along these lines. And so this is something that never disappears. When it hits the internet, it stays forever. Simply because you delete it, and kids go, oh, if I posted it, it was a snap, it disappeared. It was an Insta story, it disappeared. No, it doesn't. It sits on servers, and people will take screenshots, and it will float around the internet forever. The rate of suicide, especially with young girls who have posted things, and then they thought it was gone, and then friends passed it around, is rising at a rampant rate. And so, how do we, in light of all of that, how do we respond? Because the answer isn't to be, we're all going to be Amish, we're going to get rid of technology, we're all going to sit, we're going to turn off electricity like the mall down the road just did, and like half of Roanoke shut down. I was sitting in that mall when the power went out. People lost their mind. They had no idea. I was just sitting there going over notes. It was like, doosh. People were like, oh, electricity. And so we can't run from it. And so how do we set the proper boundaries? So you guys ready? Everybody have a booklet, notes? If you don't, there's some back there. I have no problem with you getting up, grabbing food, doing those things. I will not be offended. And if you need to walk the awkward way to the bathroom, none of us will judge you either. So go ahead and turn over to the first page. Be invested in what they are invested in. Be invested in what they're invested in. What I mean by this is know what they're doing. I'm going to hold a few little characters here up, and I think there might be some parents that know what these are, even just by holding. Any parents of little girls know what these are right here? Do what? They're not Hatchimals. They're Shopkins. Anybody have Shopkins at their house that they want to just throw away in the droves? My daughters love these things. I wish I was the guy that created these, putting faces on stuff. They're making millions upon millions. Well, my daughters decided they need an app to track down every stinking Shopkin. There are hundreds upon hundreds of them. And I'm like, why do you need a Shopkin app? Because we need to know what the rare ones are, Daddy. And we need to hunt them down. And we need to find where the stores are. And all that. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And so we downloaded an app where we're finding this stuff. And I'm like, why is this so much fun? I don't know. I just want the ice cream cone that has the face and the glitter one's special. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. But they wanted it. And so I was like, all right, I want to understand why you're doing this. And so, leading to your next blank for all my OCD friends, if they are interested, you are interested. If they are interested, you are interested. And so my oldest daughter right now, she is going into middle school. She's at a gifted school, and she wants to learn French. So she downloaded this app called Duolingo. She said, Daddy, can I download this app? I was like, what is it? She said, I get to learn French. I said, really? That's what you want to do with your summer? And she was like, yes, I do. And so she downloads this app. And so now, because I want to know what she's invested in, I am now learning French. Am I horrible at it? Absolutely. But I want to jump in and learn what exactly is she invested in because, and that's your next blank there, it matters to them, so learn why. For my daughter, she is an overachiever. She wants to be able to make the right grades. She knows that making the right grades will get her into a better academic program and academy. She knows that a better academy gets her the choice of some of the college courses she can take in high school that sets her up eventually to go to the right schools that she wants to go to. Now, for my younger daughter, Roxy, she just wants to watch kids make slime on YouTube. All day. I think she has logged enough hours where she should have just made her own YouTube channel about how to make slime, or a YouTube channel about watching other YouTubers make slime. I'm sure there's a market for that. That's what she enjoys, and she wants to do it. And I want to understand why. For her, there's two kids that she watches, and they're really funny. And for her as a kid, she is our funny kid. And you know your kids' personalities. She goes, I love watching these guys because when they're funny and it's wholesome and there's nothing wrong with it, she said, I just want to see how they're funny because I want to be funnier. She's going to be our kid that's probably going to be on a stage somewhere one day. She is just the theatric, laughable, very, just all over the place. And so I'm understanding why. kind of like Taylor, who goes to our church. Taylor's 14, and Taylor has Instagram. She has 45,000 Instagram followers at 14 years old. There aren't 45,000 people that go to her school or to the surrounding schools in our area. And yet, she has a ton of them. She rides a horse, she does all of her stuff, she does gymnastics. If you logged onto her Instagram account, you would see that she's pitching products because people contact her and say, wear this stuff and put it on there, and we'll pay you to post this. By all intents and purposes, Taylor's life looks great, and she uses Instagram. But I get a call from Taylor's mom and Taylor's stepmom. They have enough communication to say, hey, listen, we have a problem. You need to come over. So I go over to their house and ask Taylor what's going on. And she pulls up her arm, and she's been cutting. You can see that it's been something that's been going on for quite a while. Some of the cuts had already scarred over probably been going on for a year or more, and she had been able to hide it from her parents. And so as we dig a little deeper and start going through it, we start realizing, because both moms are like, well, why is she always on Instagram? And I said, let me talk to her. As we started peeling back the layers, she would get 800, 900, 1,000 likes or more on her posts. And even as we sat there and talked and her phone started to vibrate, she had this knee-jerk reaction to grab it. Taylor, why are you grabbing your phone like that? Well, I want to see who liked and commented on my posts. You see, Taylor didn't use Instagram to sell products. Taylor used Instagram because she needed validation. And those likes and those comments were telling her that she was good enough when she would sit in her room and cut herself because she'd never felt good enough. And so the behind the scenes of what everybody else would see is, oh, this girl has a great life, because everybody can pose for a photo 45 times and get one right. And everybody can get that one amazing shot of their meal that no one cares about. But as she gets the likes and the comments, it's said to her, you're good enough. But then she would need to get one more photo and one more like and one more comment. As we started peeling back the layers, see, Taylor just wants to be loved. And she was dealing with a separated home where she's bouncing between two houses. And she had no clue that was ever going to happen. And mom and dad keep telling her that they love her, but she just bounces between each parent that doesn't want to have anything to do with her at the time. And so she posts and she gets likes. It has nothing to do with an app. It has everything to do with she wants to feel loved. And so as we started peeling back these, we need to look and see why they're doing it. My daughter watches YouTube because she wants to be a funny kid. Taylor gets into Instagram because she wants to be validated, and we want to see why. And so the next blank in there is we want to see that it's important to them, and so learn the impact. Learn the impact of what the app has. Like we talked about with Snapchat. Many of us would never know that some of those things were even there. We even saw it here, saw it with myself. No clue that that was advertised. Instagram is already batting around an idea to open up a similar discovery tab instead of their explore tab, and when they do, they're going to up the limits of what type of content would be available. Still hasn't been approved yet, but it's on the way. And so these are the things we need to learn about. And finally, that last blank, if they are using it, you must know about it. This is our daughter, Roxy. How many of you guys have a kid that plays the game Roblox? It's one of those games where they can all right, so run around and build stuff. Don't freak out. At no point in time freak out at any of this. If you're like, oh, what is he going to say? You are okay. You have not done anything wrong. And anything that you've stepped into that you weren't sure about, you can always pull it backwards. Will it be difficult? Yes. But, and so she had Roblox. She asked if she could download the app. They have to get permission beforehand. We download the app, and she's playing. And so anytime they download an app, I have to download it first to find out about it, which is awful because I don't want to download Disney princesses and find out how you can move around the different outfits, but I do, and then I let them download. So check it out. She downloads it, and I'm looking at the app, and I'm seeing that there's this little thing that keeps tallying higher. And I was like, I don't even know what that is. And she came to me later. She said, Daddy, there's a chat option. We have a no chat option kind of policy in our house. If it has a chat thing, you are not going to use it right now at that age. And so before I could even tell her, she deleted the app on her own. And I was like, Like, look at this kid. At the time, she was 7 years old. I'm like, look at you, like big and grown up. And so we waited a couple of months. I started doing some research, found out how to turn the chat off. But she had done so good with device. Said, hey, baby, you've done really well. I was so proud of you that you did that. And so I'm going to give that back to you, but we're going to turn that chat option off so you can't even get into that. But I want to let you know the reason that we're doing that is because I'm knowing about what's happening, and I saw that you were trustworthy. And so we want to build up that trust. And it was an amazing opportunity just to be able to share with her about how you can grow with devices and still use them, but do it in a way that's honorable. And when you do honorable things, we are going to make sure that you're taken care of. And so that kind of talks about how we're invested in these pieces. And before we go forward, we're going to have a time of questions at the end. But before we go forward, you guys doing good? Everybody got a booklet? Do anybody have any questions about that investment piece and knowing what they're using? If not, don't worry. It's a lot. It's like drinking from a fire hose. And so we're going to keep kind of trucking along. And so any questions you have, write them in the side margins there, and we will make sure to get to those at the end. And so flip on over to your next section. And that there for the blanks is be a team manager, not a secret agent. Be a team manager, not a secret agent. We do not want to be spying. Now, for some of you go, no, I'm going to spy. Like, that's how I roll. I am going to be 007 with my children. I get it. I get the sentiment behind it. As a dad of daughters, I am with you. Like, I want to protect them. They're not going to date till they're 30. Like, we're going to take, but that feeling has to be tempered down with the proper mode of how to do that. So I want to talk a little bit about how to be able to manage that without setting this breaking of trust. And so the first blank there, do not spy on your kid, walk along with your kid. Do not spy on them, walk along with them. One of the things that I realize is when you spy, what you and I are saying is that I don't trust you out of the gate. Like, I gave you something, but I'm going to keep looking at you without you knowing about it, and I'm watching you, and so I've already told you, I have no trust in what you'll do. Instead of being able to build that up over time and say, I want to set some proper boundaries for you and I to walk through these pieces and walk through them well. You see, number 2, nothing breaks trust like finding out you're not trusted. Nothing breaks trust more than finding out you are not trusted. When I talk to my daughters and I share with them that I'm upset with them or that they did something that broke, and they go, you didn't even trust me. I heard what you said. You didn't trust me from the get-go. And at our house, it's like I'm drowning in a sea of estrogen. And so like it's tears all the time. Like I look at them wrong. I'm like, I just looked at you. And so like when we get into these pieces, we have to understand that breaking of trust, especially for a kid, when they're always looking up to you as the one who's guiding them, directing them, setting the parameters, the moment that we look down on them and tell them that I don't trust you, they look up to us as heroes. And so breaking that trust immediately breaks down that barrier. And I want to be able to help set the right tone for us. You see, number 3, we need to be able to share your goals up front, not after they've broken assumed goals. How many of you have ever had this conversation happen in your house? Your kid does something, dumb, because kids do dumb things. They do something dumb, and you launch in too. You broke the rules, and they go, or they don't raise their hand because they're shouting, they're upset, and they're emotional. They go, I didn't even know that was a rule. I didn't even know that was a thing. And you go, well, it was a thing. And you're grounded. You get grounded for something you didn't even know. And so one of the things that we did as a family early on is we set up family goals that we all agreed on in advance when it came to devices. And we're going to get to those a little bit later, but you need to be able to wrap around your head around some of this stuff beforehand. But we share our family goals up front. So that way they're able to see what's happening and what's going on. And so they're not like, oh, can I do this with the device? Can I do this? They go, we already know because it's age appropriate for your stage of life. Number 4, set goals for the entire family and use boundaries to attain them. This is one of the things. Our family goals aren't just for the kids. Because what you might be thinking right now is like, oh, well, the goals are great because those kids need some direction. So do you. And it's one of the things, so do I. And we'll, a little bit later, there's some great books up here. This class is all based on this book, Screenwise, and it has some of these pieces in. But Cal Newport, and you can come up here later and check it out, he wrote a book called Digital Minimalism, which is basically, hey, adults, you're rewiring your brain wrong, and you're setting a very difficult example for anybody that is looking and watching you. And so we're actually getting ready as a church to do an adult version of this class to help adults be able to understand what that impact has on them day to day in their marriages, in the workplace, with relationships and beyond. And so we need to set family boundaries that everybody can look at. One of the things my friend Aaron does, he has 3 girls, they adopted 3 boys. And they know, once they hit that age of like, hey, you're a girl and you look different, and oh, you're a boy and you definitely look different. Like, start figuring those things out. What they decide to do is like, hey, we know you're going to go looking for answers, so we are going to be the answer people. And so what Aaron did is all 3 of his boys, they took a trip up to D.C., and they went to all the different museums, but specifically the Roman statue area, where they get to see all sorts of parts. Everything. It's out in the open. And so they brought the boys in one trip. They brought the girls in another trip. They said, hey, here's what we're going to do. You can ask any question you want. And so they're looking, and they're like, boys, that's yours. That's not yours. Here's what's going on. And they laughed, and they giggled like junior hires, and they walked through all of it. He said, I want to dispel the myth so you can ask whatever you want. One of the kids is like, I'm embarrassed, I'm good. The other kid was like, I want to know everything. And the youngest one's like, and he probably around the time, I think he was like 9, but he's like, my friends kind of joke around about this stuff, and I always laugh, but I don't know what they're saying. And so they spent time talking about all of it, dispelling all the myths. You know what Aaron did that was so brilliant? He said, we're going to set boundaries, and I'm not going to let your friends be the ones that introduce you to this stuff. We're going to do it. And so they did the trip. His wife took all the girls, and the girls were so grossed out by the whole trip. They were like, Mommy, how did we even get here when that is the story? Like, that's gross. And they walked through all of it. The girls were just like mortified. They were, and they laughed the whole way back. But being able to set those family boundaries. It's so one of the things we realize in blank number 5, goals are good for kids, then model them as parents. Had a family come in to my office. They said, hey, our kid is looking at adult content. We brought you his laptop. We need to find out why. And so I'm like, all right, and because I'm a little bit of a tech nerd, I dug into his history and all the stuff in his computer. And I said, do you guys watch Game of Thrones? And they're like, yeah, but he's never in there when we watch it because it's an adult show. I said, has he ever walked in when you've been watching the show? They're like, yeah, why? And so I was able to turn the computer around and said, let's follow the history of where he's been. And we walked it all the way back to when he walked in one day and he saw Mom and Dad watching Game of Thrones. Now, if you don't know, Game of Thrones made specifically the decision to hire people out of the adult film industry so they would make sure that their show would be as sexualized as possible. And so many of the actresses that were placed in many of the scenes were out of the adult film industry. And so this kid walks in on his parents watching this show with all this stuff, that adults said, well, I'm adult, I can watch it, that's another topic for another day, why you shouldn't. And so this kid went to go find the actresses, went down the line. This kid now has been in a year's worth of counseling trying to undo his adult digital addiction, all because he walked in on Mom and Dad watching Game of Thrones. If boundaries are good for kids, they're good for you too. Next, turn over to your next page. See, parents do what you listen to and watch what you consume for the future. They're gonna be watching you. They're gonna see what you do. So be a parent that creates space for conversation. Be a parent that creates space for conversation. Blank number 1: shame will drive your kids to deceive you. Sharing will drive them to your door. If you shame them, bless you. Every single time that something happens, we're full service stop here tonight. If you shame them every time something happens, you are guaranteeing 100% they will not come to you in the future. Shame is not a good modifier. Understanding, grace, love, truth, there are punishments that are involved. All of these pieces, those can be fantastic modifiers. But shame, just laying on shame, will guarantee they won't come to your door, and you can guarantee they'll be in counseling when they become adults. You see, that shame that's laid down there, we don't want that when we walk into churches. We don't want that when we begin to experience Jesus and the grace that He has for us. We're actually trying to unload every bit of that. Why we would then place that umbrella over our children is beyond my understanding. But when we begin to share those experiences, it drives them to us. Blank 2, ask what they are enjoying digitally and why. Why are they looking at certain things? Why are they going certain places? Like I mentioned with Roxy, she watches this girl and boy, it's called Sis vs. Bro. And they're a little obnoxious. They're a little over the top for me on YouTube. But they're not bad. But they are probably some of the funniest kids ever. And because Roxy she enjoys laughter. Like when she walks into a room, our oldest child walks in, she's like, "Hey Daddy, how's it going?" Our youngest, the 4-year-old, she is just like a constant Disney sing-along wherever she goes. But Roxy, when she enters a room, she immediately, just the other day, she walked in and she goes, "Superstar." And I'm like, one, you're 9 and you shouldn't know that reference. And why? But I laugh because I immediately see it because she is absolutely a student of comedy. It's so good. But I watch that and I go, wait a second. She loves to make the room laugh. And so one of the things that we want to do is cultivate that in a healthy way so that it starts to be something that while they enjoy it digitally, it becomes something that in the offline analog world can actually be something that enhances life. We'll get to that in some of our family goals here in a little bit. Number 3, when kids know it's safe to talk, they will come to you before their friends. They will come to you before their friends. A good example of this, our daughter Chloe, she's going into 6th grade, so you can pray for us. Last year, she had a friend. We allowed her, don't know how many of you guys are familiar with Facebook Messenger Kids, but they have a kids version of Facebook Messenger that you as a parent can approve certain kids just that they're allowed to talk to. And so we thought it would be good when we saw it come out that she was allowed to she's on the kids worship team. Our kids lead worship for other kids. And so she's on the kids worship team. So she's allowed to have those chat connections with the friends at church. And I said, you can have 2 friends from school that we see them over at the house. We get to meet them. Then you can do it. Well, sure enough, one day she comes, she's in tears. "Daddy," and I'm like, calm down, it's okay, what's wrong? And she's just still, ugly crying. I can't get a word out of her. And finally, "Daddy, Erica said the worst thing to me," and she starts going on about it, and I said, "Well, I need you to show me." Sure enough, Erica did not say the worst thing in the world, but Erica was mean to her on the chat thing. And she said, "I don't know what to do, and I paused, I said, what do you think you should do?" And so we walked through, what does it mean to talk to Erica? What does it mean to probably say, I'm not going to have Erica approved on my chat thing anymore? What does that look like to maybe have? This is one of those things, and I know with girls, it's only going to get worse from here. And so if it wasn't digital, it'd be notes, and they'd be crying and scribbling at each other's faces in yearbooks. And so we talk about this, and we go through it, but I love that the moment that it happened, she came to me. The moment that things like that happen, she comes to her mom and I. She doesn't go running to her other friends on chat anywhere. She comes to us. And we want to set the example that they will come to us before anything else, which is why we get to number 4. Talk about your digital experience, and kids will talk about theirs. The reason I know that Chloe felt safe to come to me was a week beforehand. We came to breakfast, and I was viscerally upset. It's, "Daddy, what's wrong? Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, baby." And I explained to her, a person from our church I had seen, and I am not the Facebook police. I don't even get on there a ton. But I had seen that somebody from our church had commented on a news article, and their comment was blatantly racist. And I am like, growing up as a white kid in a minority neighborhood where I was one of 4 white kids that went to this entire school, and I didn't have any white friends. I just had African-American friends and Hispanic friends, whatever. And I was like, yeah, Jesus, that's not Jesus right there. And I knew they claimed faith, so I sent them a message privately. Hey, I saw your comment on that news article. I've also seen that on your Facebook page, you check in at our church a lot. And so those two don't really correspond all that well. So maybe we should, I don't know, be a little more kind in what we say and what we do. And we don't teach racism at our church. That's not. Well, she unleashes on me. I get this thing, it might as well have an ISBN number. It was a book. I just had to keep scrolling. She, every which way, some words I didn't even know. I was like, I'm going to have to look that one up. She just berated me and whatever, and was like, yeah, I'm never coming back to this church again, and whatever, which part of me was like, well, all right. And so I come to the kitchen table, and I explained to Chloe, I said, well, Daddy's upset because I love somebody who I care deeply about, and they did something that wasn't good. And so I tried to tell them lovingly, hey, we probably shouldn't do that. And they were really mean to me, and that hurt. Sharing that with her, she didn't need to know the details about what happened. I didn't share with her what the person said, what they said to me, any of that. But she knew Daddy tried to help someone, and digitally they were mean. I know that I can talk to Daddy because he's been there. And so the moment that I shared with her, it opened up an opportunity. And so share the things that are happening and talk about it with your kids, the good and the bad, at an age-appropriate level. So everybody good so far? You got all your blanks? All right, we're going to keep trucking along into our next section. Be a coach. I know the church completely plays out all things sports related, and hey, run the race, and yada, yada. I cannot tell you to embrace this more. Be a coach. And so the first thing that we see in there is that freedom is a goal, not a gift. What happens when you go to somebody's birthday party? You go out and you buy them what? You buy them a gift. You wrap it, or if you're like me, you put it in a bag, because who has time to wrap stuff? You put it in a bag, or you bring it in the Target bag that you brought them. Or let's be real, we buy them a Target gift card, and we shove it in there and have a nice day. You bring the gift, you hand them the gift. What do you do after you hand them the gift? Do you watch what they do with it for the next 5 weeks? Or do you walk away? You see, anytime that we give gifts, we immediately walk away from them. Freedom has to be a goal, not a gift. And we're going to get into some of the pieces of that, because for a lot of kids, what they happen is, you know what? You've been a really good boy. You've been a really good girl. I'm going to give you more freedoms. And then we step back and let them go crazy with it. You've been awesome. Here's an Xbox. And then we never check in with what's happening. You know what? You've done amazing this year and you're going into middle school. Here's a phone. And we haven't set up any parameters on it to help you at all stay strong. Just go and be free with the world at your fingertips. The same computing power that put man on the moon, we're going to hand to a middle schooler and they can put it in their pocket. Freedom has to be a goal and not a gift. Because see, family, number 2, family trust is important, so we need to be able to talk about what is okay to share and what is not. My wife shared this with me. I'm pretty good about occasionally posting things here and there just about our family, because I'm not going to post political stuff because political stuff. It's just going to be a nightmare, and it's a time suck that I'm not going to be involved with. And so I post family stuff on occasion. And you ever have one of those days where everything along the way with your child, you're like, nothing went right? We had one of those days where every point along the way, I was like, we're going to go to bed and we're going to have a do-over because all of you are Satan incarnate and it's done. We're done. And so at the end of the day, I posted this timeline of our day. And at the end of it, I was like, parents, solidarity, may the odds be ever in your favor. And it had all the different things. Well, one of the moments was my littlest one, age 4, I have an eye mask when I sleep because my wife wants a TV to sleep to because of noise. It annoys me to death. 15 years, haven't won the battle, oh well. So I have an eye mask when I sleep, but my 4-year-old, because I want to be able to have darkness, she finds the eye mask and goes, and puts it on. She goes, I'm like, Mommy, I need a husband now. And I'm like you, I thought that was pretty funny. So in the timeline, I posted and it's all text. I said, found my eye mask, put it up to herself and was like, hey, whatever. My wife sees it about an hour later, and she's like, hey, I know everything's funny. I know it's fine. I said, can you take that part out? And I was like, huh? What's the big deal? That was hysterical. You even laughed. She said, yeah, I just don't want other grown men thinking about my 4-year-old daughter that way. I was like, you're right. We probably don't want to post that. You see, one of the things we do as a family is we talk about how we post things and what we post, because it may be hysterically funny, but we don't think about some of the other parameters that may be involved. I can't tell you the number of guys that I've sat down and talked with who struggle with all sorts of sexual addiction, and that my wife sits down and talks with females that struggle with sexual addiction. And it can sometimes go down rabbit holes that we go, you know what? I don't want to ever give anybody the opportunity to be tempted in that way, so we're not going to do that. And so one of the things we do is we talk about it as a family, what we're posting. But number 3, before we get too down on technology, fun can happen digitally, and so we need to be able to foster that. One of the things, how many of you guys ever downloaded the Pokemon Go app? Any Pokemon Goers in here? None at all? Oh, you guys are missing out. When Pokemon Go, I don't know if in Virginia Beach, it was a thing. Like everybody and their mother was out playing Pokemon Go. And so, I didn't want to play it, but my daughters were like, Daddy, I was talking on the bus to somebody about Pokemon Go. You need to download Pokemon Go to your device, and we need to go and play because I want to go hang out with you because we need to play. I said, because you want to play? They go, yeah, but we need to play. And so I downloaded the thing. We set up a profile. I was like, this is going to be dumb. I never even watched Pokemon as a kid. I don't care about Pokemon. I don't want to catch any of them, much less all of them. We go out. It was so much fun. Like running around town and watching them. They're like, Daddy, down the block, and it's like our downtown area. They're like, down the block, there's a blah, blah, blah. And then we're like, we got to go. And so we're all running down the block to go find, because it's on the map doing this thing. And it was one of the most fun, summers when it all, popped up that we had. It was so cool. And they'd be like, Daddy, Mommy's taking a nap with Kinley. Can we go? And I'm like, go Pokemon Go? They're like, let's go. And so we'd go, and we'd have fun. And it would take an hour during the summer, but they wanted to hang out with me. We got to go run around and laugh. Anytime that my tween daughter wants to hang with me, I'm here for that. And so we had a blast. And so if you want to have fun in those moments, fun can happen digitally. But right on the flip side, failure can happen in seconds. So we need to talk about it. Facebook is listed as the #1 source in divorce cases, 2017 Pew Research. #1 source. Because you get on Facebook, you married your spouse, and both of y'all were in the prime. Then we get a little older. We don't look the same. We start adding all kinds, and then we get on Facebook and we go, I wonder about what Susie's looking like these days from high school. And then we start getting into friend requests, and before too long, it all goes downhill. Tell you what, in couples that I've dealt with in marriage counseling, talking about divorce, social media comes up every single time. We need to make sure that we're talking about the side of failure in those. Flip on over to the next page. Be an encourager that ties technology to maturity, not grades or money. I explained to my fantastic slide tech up there that this is going to be the part where some of you don't like me. So we're going to walk through this. I promise you that I care about you, I love you, and I love you even if you don't like me after this next section. All right. Technology should not be about their ability to afford it or to get good grades. Imagine John comes home from school. Mom, check out my report card. But now you get it emailed to you, all those things. Kids can't forge it or hide it from you. It's like, I got it from your teacher. We're good. And so you come home, John's report card's in your email inbox. You already got it at work. He's made straight A's. And so you say, you know what, John? You had an amazing semester. I'm going to get you a Playboy subscription. None of you would do that. I hope that not a single one of us would be like, you know what, John? You're becoming a man. Here you go. No, why would we not do that? Because it would not be okay. And yet, we go, here's a device that is connected to the internet where you can get to anything and everything you want. And then we step away because they got enough money to buy it on their own, or because they made really great grades and so we opened up that box. You see, it can't be tied to their ability to make good grades or to make money. Hit to that next blank. When you use it as a reward, you leave them alone with it. You give them an Xbox. You might be like, oh, they played that game that we bought them, and they're doing whatever. Just because they have that game doesn't mean they're going down that road. Just because they have that game doesn't mean that what's happening on that game may not be something that has become extremely difficult for them. I remember getting, when I was in my student ministry years, an onslaught of emails from parents. I bought my kid this game, and I don't know what's going on because I started hearing some really bad things in it. And I knew immediately. I started getting them through. We bought them. It's GTA. What does that stand for? And I'm like, oh no, Grand Theft Auto. Well, Grand Theft Auto comes out, and they thought, oh, well, it's just kids getting cars and planes and trains and whatever. No. There is some of the most despicable things that happen. I don't even feel comfortable saying them out loud here from the stage that happens in that game. I mean, NC-17 movie type stuff happening within that game. It is awful. But what happened? Parents bought their kids the game. They saw adult rating. They probably didn't even look at the adult rating. They just walked up, bought it for their kid. You heard that. You put that on your list, baby, and you had good grades, so here. And then they go, what have we done? See, when we get them gifts, we leave them alone with it. So, what do? Blank 3. Look for maturity markers and leverage online experiences with their life experience. See, as we look at these maturity markers, we have to be able to say, where are you at in life? For some of you, you may have a middle school boy who is squirrely. I mean, he can barely sit still. You bring him into church and he's just doing this and he's all over the place. Then, some of you have a middle school girl and she is composed. She is writing notes from the sermon. She is totally different because at that age, middle school boys and middle school girls are way different. Way different. You may have a kid and our girls, I have one girl, she's a rule abider. I could look at her. She could be sitting in the balcony. I'd look at her and she'd be like, Daddy, I'm sorry. I'll never do that again. My middle child, I look at her and she'll be like, what? And pull out a prison shiv and buck up on me. Totally different. Completely different kids. And so the maturity level that happens with kids is different. And so we can't say when you're 10, a blanket statement, when you're 10, you get to have X, Y, and Z. Because 10-year-old child 1 or 10-year-old child 3 or 4 or 5, and if you get past that, we need to have a conversation about how to control that. At some point, you need to go, all right, they're gonna be different. And so, number 4, each child is different. Set goals individually, not as a blanket goal. Chloe, our oldest, has 35 apps on her phone currently. Roxy, so we have 11, so our children, 11, 9, and 4. Oldest has 35, the middle one has 10. Kinley, our youngest, has 3 apps, and all of them are educational. She doesn't have any games. She doesn't have YouTube Kids on there, even though she's begged me for it. Roxy has YouTube Kids. Why can't I have YouTube Kids? Because I said so. Well, that doesn't make sense. Ask your grandpa, because he said it to me. And so that's the way we roll. We set goals and parameters based on their age. And so they all have, and if you want to write this in the margins, they have different time limits And we'll talk about how to set up time limits for kids. Different access, the second one. And as you heard in that next one, the third one, they have different number of apps. And all of these pieces go back to their maturity, not their age. Because our oldest is extremely mature. I could leave her home for a week and she'd be like Macaulay Culkin. She'd learn how to survive. She'd figure it out. Home alone, she'd be fine. The other two, they wouldn't last an hour without the house burning down. There's no way. The burglars would take them over. They would be toast. Different maturity levels all along the way. You need to know. You need to be able to see that and plan accordingly as you're moving along. You guys good? Any questions as we keep moving forward? All right, you've been writing them in the margins. We're good. All right. Make sure to be present. Don't miss the moments. Be present. Do not miss the moments with your kids. My daughter, the oldest one, I drop her off at the bus stop, and she knew that I had a meeting that day. It was a very big meeting, getting ready to expand our property and building stuff there. And so she comes to me, and she had asked me earlier in the week, Daddy, I would love for you to go to my field day. It's going to be fun. There's going to be a lot of parents there. I'd really like for you to be there. Baby, I have meetings that day. It's very important. I need to be there. Told her all along. So we get to the bus stop, and she's one of these kids that doesn't like confrontation. So we're standing, she's waiting with her book bag and everything else, and as the bus begins to pull up, I see her pull this manifesto out of her book bag, and she throws it in the window of the car and sprints off like Carl Lewis to the bus. Doesn't say bye, nothing, hops on the bus. So I open up, I was like, what is this? And so, these multi-page things says, I love you, even though I'm sometimes a little prickly. Ouch. And it has a bunch of cactuses. It comes on, it says, love you big much. When she was a little kid, she's like, Daddy, I love you. I said, how much? She goes, big much. She still says it at age 11. If she doesn't say it till the day she gets married, I'll cry. And so she drew some more cactuses there. I love you. I hope you can make it. I go, oh, now I know where this is going. And this is what she wrote me. Dear Daddy, I know you have a meeting, but I really, 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 really want you to come to my field day. I know the world won't end, but I really, really, really want you to come. My friends are leaving all right after the field day. If you come, you do not have to take me home, but the teacher suggested. I love you, and the field day starts at, Miss Arnold said that you can come before 10 a.m. if you're late, that's okay. I don't know when it ends. Love you. Hope you can make it. P.S. Text Mommy. She has all the exact times ready for you as soon as you ask her. Love you, bunches, Chloe. And I'm like, okay, I have been set up by her mother and her that conspired. So I call, I say, hey, we're going to change the meeting. I go to this thing. I show up, and I'm thinking, I'm going to walk up, and the heavens are going to open, trumpet sounding. She's going to run to me like in the movies and grab me. Cinematic moment. Nope. I walk in, hey, Chloe, how's it going? Hey, Daddy. Doesn't talk to me the rest of the field day. Not a peep. Nothing. Zilch. Zero. So I'm sitting there at the picnic shelter, and they're playing kickball and doing their thing. I am fairly disgruntled at this point. I missed a meeting to watch you run around the field and ignore me. They're playing kickball, and she gets up, and she kicks it and starts running the bases and gets to second base. And she turns the moment that she gets on base and looks at me, smiling. She wanted to see that I was watching her. I was like, yeah, way to go. And I look over, and there's a line of parents all sitting on their devices, not watching their kids. She didn't want me to come be the guy to talk to her. She wanted me to be present in the moment. She didn't care about saying a word. She wanted to know that I had my attention on her. And it made all the difference in the world. You see, number one, kids won't model goals seriously that parents don't model. How often do you come home and immediately turn on the TV because you need some downtime? How often do you get that emergency email or text message and you have to open up your laptop and do some work from home? You see, if you set these goals, it's going to be difficult, but you set the parameters. I can't tell you the number of times that I have to wait till all of my children go to bed for the 45th time until they're all sleeping, and then I can open up my laptop and begin to do some emails. Or I wake up before the Lord really intended for us to, and I get up and I will take care of some things that I need to because I know that my kids won't be awake. What goals are you setting, and how are you modeling them? See, number 2, set goals that are a high standard. When you lead, they'll follow. And I put in parentheses here, and if you want to write it, don't let the inmates run the asylum. Don't let we used to call our youngest, and my wife was like, you got to stop saying that, the tiny terrorist. She would sabotage everything, and the highest of demands. Hey, Daddy, today I would really like to go to Outback and then Old Navy and then the beach and then the water park. And I'm like, that sounds like a $500 day. Hard pass. But I want to do whatever. You guys, and then she means, you guys don't love me. And I go, the fact that I'm not sending you to Jesus right now means that I love you. Go upstairs. Not going to deal with that. You see, we need to be able to set those things and model them, but set a high standard, and they will rise to the standard. Don't let them throw on the floor. You know, no kid has ever died laying on the floor kicking and screaming. I can't tell you the number of times I've had parents look at me out in public while my kid's throwing a fit, and I go, that looks dumb. And I'll just keep looking on the aisle. Parents will walk up and they'll look at her and go, that doesn't look like much fun, does it? And I'll just keep looking at what's going on. You're not going to dictate to me what to do. No. And eventually, or the funnest one, lay down next to them and throw the same fit. I've done that before. Every other parent will go, I'm doing that next time. Like, they watch that happen, and parents go, what do you mean? Like, because the kid will go, but that's my fit. And I go, well, now it's mine. and they stop almost immediately. Well, I'm not going to let them run what we have going on. So, what do we do? Number 3, mealtime, family time, and event time, device-free moments. When we come home, there's a place where we put all of our devices, we plug them in, we put them away. They are not welcome at the table. They are not welcome during our family time, the moments that we're eating together, when we have events, when we have friends over, and all the kids show up to play with the other kids, our daughters don't have their devices out. Why can't we have devices? Because you have human beings that want to hang out. Do some of that. Well, can we watch a movie? No. Go play, build something, draw something, make something, set something on fire at a reasonable amount. Play. Just don't burn the house down. Go, be free. Sometimes it turns into the Lord of the Flies. We've got to rein it in. But we're not going to rely on devices to raise our kids. Not going to say that we don't use them, but we're going to make sure that we put the right time. So, number 4, we set a consistent device-free time for the entire family. Wednesday nights, the busiest night of our week. Every girl is in dance. We have small group that night. We have about 1 billion kids that go to our upstairs and hang out in a room. And we do not have devices that night. No TV, no nothing. They get to be and just play. My girls have started to grow to love that night above all others because they get to be with their friends. They come home. It's one of the days that they get along the best with one another because they play together, because they have to rely on each other for fun instead of all being off. We're all going to play together with screens. They actually have to look at each other face to face. And we see that, we know, man, it's been a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. We can't wait for Wednesday. And then we'll see, man, Thursday's good, Friday's good, and then it starts to go downhill again. And then we get to Wednesday and everything's good. And so we set those times. Create space for activities that are difficult or impossible to use a device. We love going to the beach. Some of you may bring a phone to, water activities, whatever. We don't. One, because devices are expensive. I'm not losing that thing in the water. I know they say they're waterproof, whatever, put it in a bag of rice. No, I have killed a number of devices in water, no matter how much they tell you. And so we just leave them at home. Our daughters go, can I bring my phone to the beach? No, because it's sandy, and sand is just going to get on it and scratch it and whatever. No, go play in the water. Jaws is out there. Have fun. Like, just go and be free and play and be silly and have fun, but we do activities. Number 6, your kids need your face more than you need a photo or video. Parents of littles. Well, how many of you guys have kids here tonight that are under the age of like 10? How many of you got? All right. You're my people, okay? Put this, either write it down, make a mental note, however you want to do it. Would I take this if I had to carry a VHS camera or a film camera with me? Remember the days where you had a camera and it only had 32 photos, and your kids would be like, take this photo. You go, I only got 3 left. No. But I made this awesome thing. Make it more awesome, and we'll take a photo. But we have enough photos, and you would save those photos like those meant something. And now I walk in, I was at Panera just right down the road, and I watched a girl, I kid you not, 2 girls were sitting at this booth, and one girl stood up on the booth to take a picture of her pasta. No, I know what it looks like. It's pasta. Like, your friends nobody cares about the meal you made and ate. Not a single one of them. None of us are scrolling and going, oh man, John made a wicked awesome steak. I would like, none of us are doing that, okay? All those recipes you've saved, you're not going to make a single one, okay? Some of you you're triggered right now from that. That Pinterest account, you haven't done a thing with it except save stuff. You don't have to worry about it. And so your kids, take in the moment. I have one photo from when our daughter they did a graduate, it wasn't really a graduation, but from elementary to middle school. I have one photo that my dad took of my daughter and I together. The rest, I didn't videotape her walking down the aisle because she's elementary to middle school. We can save that for high school. That'll be a moment maybe that we need to videotape. But I wanted to just be in the moment. And if your kid has seen the back of your phone more than your face, then that's a problem. I know you want to get all the photos, but they need you. They need your face because they're being rewired to want to see a screen because they go, man, that's really important to them. It must be important to me. So that is why we set up the parameters that we did and our family goals. You can flip on over. Our family goals. Goal number 1, devices should enhance our lives, not hinder them. Devices should enhance our lives and not hinder them. And so, if we see at all that a device is not helping our lives, it goes badly. And I'll show you what we do here in a little bit. But we have, and all these goals sit on our fridge, and we talk about these regularly. My daughters absolutely hate it. At their current ages, not one of them goes, you know what, Daddy, I'm really glad we have these rules. Like, these are awesome. I'm really glad that you gave me parameters and what I can do and you rein in my time. Nope, they don't like it. And if you have a hard time with your kids not liking you, I need to let you know that you're their parent, not their friend. And if you rely on their friendship that much, that, 1, I want to help you find a counselor. 2, you should have friends your age. And so be a friend with grown-ups and let your kids be kids and let you be their parent. Because they need you to parent way more than they need you to be their friend. And so what we do, it should not hinder our lives. So 2, this one's difficult. For every digital interaction, we will have a personal one. For every digital interaction, it'll be on this next slide here, we will have a personal one, which means for my daughters, if they're going to message a friend, they have to have conversations with a friend in real life. This is difficult for me in a job where I'm emailing and calling people all the time. And so for Dad, my parameters are for every email that I send, I have to have either a phone call or a face-to-face interaction with somebody. So if I send 30 emails that day, you know what it's forced me to do? To go out and I go, man, I know I brought my lunch, but I'm going to go get my lunch somewhere, and I'm going to talk to every employee as I go through. So I go to Chipotle, I basically live off of it, and so I will talk to all the employees. Hey, and I'll see their name tags, and I'll call them by name, and see whatever. And so my daughter will be like, so, you sent a bunch of emails, but who'd you talk to today? I said, well, Nancy made my burrito. Well, she got it started. And then Sid, he got all the stuff on it. And then Alex, he did a phenomenal job ringing me up. He almost charged me too much, but we worked it out. And I needed a little bit extra. And so Nancy, she was able to get me some extra guac. She didn't even charge me, and it was so good. Then I talked to Mr. Dan, the executive pastor, and they go, oh, okay. And I have better interactions with people because of this rule. And so do my kids. And so if we're going to have a digital interaction, it has to be matched by a face-to-face, and for me, it's a phone call. So I call friends that are out of state way more than I ever did. All those, you're in college, we're going to talk all the time, we're going to do whatever. I actually do. I call friends. It's this weird thing. I use my phone as a phone. It's bizarre. One of the other rules we have is kids' devices will stay in the hallway unless you've received permission otherwise. We have, and you saw it in the booklet there, it's right across the thing, the hallway charging station. You'll have a slide here that shows that. There's a link in the resources page where you could do that. I already did the search for you. You just type in the link. It has all this charging stations for you. My wife does not put her device on a charging station, but I do. I don't do it. And for some of you, I already hear what you might be thinking. You may say, well, my kid uses his or her device as what? An alarm clock. It's interesting. They made these newfangled things called an alarm clock. You'll see it right here, that they can use to wake them up. And they have a battery backup. It's a 9-volt battery that you stick in there, and it will, even if the power goes out, it'll stay on. Every place I go, they go, well, my kid do it. There's no way he'll do it. And so I say this to every group that I go and talk to. If you have trouble with your kid doing this, and then you go, we've bought enough stuff, we can't afford one more thing, you email me and I will buy and ship you an alarm clock. Nothing. I'm not going to charge you. I'm not going whatever. If you go, there's no way, I can't afford it, I will buy you an alarm clock. And I've been surprised at how many people have taken me up and they're like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And they're like, I bought the charging station. I'm like, cool, I'll send you an alarm clock. And it's one of those things, your teenager will what do you do very first thing when you roll over? You grab your device. If you're touching, and it is on a marriage level, if you're touching your device in the morning before you touch your spouse, you're doing it wrong. Okay? You're doing it wrong. It will change the game for you, I promise. That's all far I'm going to go with that. So, number 4, devices aren't a member of our family, so they aren't invited with us. We do not bring devices to restaurants. Our kids learn to wait. It's this weird thing called patience. And they just don't do it. But what they do notice is other families out where mom, dad, siblings are all looking at their devices and their plates are getting cold at restaurants. And our kids go, that looks really boring. So what my wife did, she went online on Amazon and ordered it's 110 questions card deck of just questions. And she carries it in her purse. And when we sit around, she pulls the deck of cards out and we've answered those questions about 1 billion times. But we learn new things all the time because the food preferences change and colors change and animal. If you could be any animal today, what would you be? And my middle child's always I would be a winged tiger. I'm like, that doesn't exist. And she's like, but it should. And she goes, but we have fun with it and we're actually talking with one another. And so devices don't go with us. Number 5, if you see something that you feel you shouldn't have, you have permission to talk to another family member about it. Roxy was on her device. She did a quick search for a report that she was doing, and some search options came up, even with all of our filters, that she knew that it just wasn't appropriate. And so she was like, "Hey, I'm not gonna do that." And so, but we know when things do go bad, and I missed a couple things here. We have, when they don't do things well, and you'll see the kitchen safe. We're going to go back a slide here. We have this, and this thing's awesome. This was originally made by a guy who went through AA that wanted to make sure that he would not get into his alcohol when he would go to his parents' house or whatever. So he'd tell his parents, I want to make this, and I'm going to give it to you, and you're going to put it in your house. And so when I come over to your house, or I house sit, I want you to put your alcohol in here. What you do is there's a timer. And so you could spin it to 1 hour, 5 hours, 10 minutes, 5 days, whatever you may call it, and then you hit the button. And I want you to hear real quick, maybe it'll go. Oh, 4, 3, 2. It's about to. And all of these little locks came out. And now you can't open this until 11 hours, 39 minutes, and 55 seconds. Even if you take the batteries out, because it has a backup little thing that remembers. So what we do when our kids act a fool, I go get me your device. They're like, no. Or it can fit game controllers, an entire baby doll, whatever you choose. It's up to you. But if it is a device, I would have you take it a step further. I make sure that they turn their device on when they put it in. And this sits in the middle of our kitchen island, and then they watch it slowly die. So even after they get their device, they have to charge it up again before they can get to it, because I am sadistic. But you can do what you want. The tall one is about $50. I can tell you this. It has been worth every penny, because we put I gave that away at one of my workshops. The church that I went to, they bought a bunch of it. I gave it away. The guy brought it home that night. He put all of his kids said something awful. He goes, get me your Xbox controllers and the power cord to the Xbox so his friend wouldn't come over and bring his controllers, and put it all in that thing, turned the controllers on, locked it up for 10 days. And the kid had to just watch it because he mouthed off to him. It's been a year and a half, and this kid has never acted like that again. So, saw the young man back there. He's like, don't do it. Don't do it. It's not worth any of it at all. Here's the deal, and I'll get into this in the questions. Our books will be paper. And we'll get into learning. There's, statistically speaking, when you take two groups, you take one group that learns by paper, one group that learns by digital. Every group that does paper, it doesn't matter how smart, what school district, whatever you do, if you have them learn by paper, you have the other kids learn digital, the kids at paper will always do better. I know the question that will come, what do you do because the school system's going to Chromebooks and digital stuff and all of that? We will get to that in the questions. Make sure to ask that. Number 7, digital boundaries we have are in place not because we believe the worst about each other, but because we believe the best about one another and want that to continue. And so for us, we got this phenomenal little box called Circle, and it's done by Disney. How many of you guys have heard of this little device here? So a couple of you guys have. This is the old one. It's the first generation. So now on Amazon, when this first came out, my parents bought it for us because it was like $100 and something. It's now on Amazon because they have a new version, but this one works great. If you have little kids that aren't taking their devices out of the house, it's $30 on Amazon. And what it does, and you'll see on the screens, you'll see a bunch of profiles there. So myself going around the horn, my wife, oldest, middle, young. Then some of the other stuff is like our security system, media. And then it lists, you'll see the second screen, all the devices in our home. Now, if you may have, like your ecosystem is Android or your ecosystem is iOS, whatever it may be, they have parameters for those devices, but they don't have the locks for your TV, your game system, the laptops that get brought into your home by the school system, all these pieces. This little box here just plugs in the back. It doesn't take over your Wi-Fi. It acts as an add-on. And so at that point, you can set up the parameters on the next screen there for each kid. A preteen level, teen level, older, adult, no parameters. You could set time limits. You could set a bedtime for devices. What I love, and you can see it on the third screen, it's the far left, there's a little pause button. When the kids get mouthy, I just pause that and don't tell them. And every device they connect to stops working. Why can't I get to YouTube? I've never. And now, like the moment, they'll get like 3 seconds in and go, oh, Daddy! And I'll hear it, and they'll be done, and I'll just giggle because I don't care. And they'll come, and I'll go, why do you think that got turned off? And we get a great opportunity for them to process, what have I done recently that wasn't okay? It is phenomenal. I absolutely love it. And it's the best $33 that you could spend. And I would tell you this, if you have enough money to buy them a game system, a web-enabled TV, a phone, a digital device, and you go, I don't think I want to spend $33, it's like buying them a car without brakes. If you can't afford to put the parameters in place, then you can't afford to buy them the devices in the first place. because you've opened up a gate and you haven't given them the opportunity to have the boundaries. Kids thrive in boundaries. Don't let anybody tell you, if I put boundaries, they'll be stifled. No, they won't. They'll thrive. They do it all the time. Watch as kids get put in a playground that has a fence around it. They will go to the outer parts of the fence and run all the way around. Watch them as they go to a playground that doesn't have a fence. What do? All the kids congregate in the very center of the tallest part of whatever tower it is. Why? Because they want to feel safe. Cognitively, they were designed to thrive in boundaries. Don't let anybody tell you, our Creator made us that way, and it's absolutely beautiful. We should not try to fight it. Number 8, we know our worth, and we say this to our girls all the time, is in Jesus. No amount of likes, follows, or selfies can change that. Number 9, we love each other even when we fail, but we love each other enough to say something and help healing. My girls have the permission, when I'm doing this, when they are watching Sweet Life with Zach and Cody reruns that they weren't even alive for, but they love it, and they're watching it on the Disney app, and they're doing whatever, and I'm like, I don't really care about these kids. It's really annoying, and they're kind of dumb. They'll go, Daddy, it's family time. Put away your phone. And it's okay. I've given them that permission to check me because they need to know that it's okay. Young man back there is like, yeah, I'm going to check them now. You'd be like, they are okay to say that. We're tell one another that. Number 10, it's just a tool. Use it for its purpose, and then put it away. Work stuff is for work. Put it away. You go on vacation, it's called a vacation for a reason. Put your stuff away. I know, as a pastor, I'm on 24/7. You know what? When I went away for a vacation recently, we came up to Natural Bridge. We stayed at Jellystone, the whole 9 yards, week and a half. We were there. Kids lost their minds. They ate ice cream multiple times a day. I didn't care. We were on vacation, lived a good life. And they had a blast. We had a death at the church. You know what? People handle it. I had to be with my family. There was something that happened with the permitting of our building. Our staff handled it. I was away. The world doesn't revolve around you. Leave your devices as the tools they are and put them away. Life will be better that way, I promise you. I want to pray, and then we'll look at these resources, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. I also have some stuff I'm going to give away. Everybody likes free stuff. I don't have enough for all of you, and so, yeah, let's pray. God, I thank you for tonight. You are absolutely amazing. I pray for each and every one of these parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, young people, that we can be families that embrace you above all and put your precepts where they need to be. And that means first, to be able to say that we're not going to dodge technology because it is absolutely amazing. We want to leverage it and put the boundaries in place to use it well and to make sure that all of that digital, whatever we engage, will be used to bolster and enhance what we do face to face. Because, God, we were made for connection. First and foremost with you, and then as we have families, as we have spouses, as we connect with one another, we were made to give our lives away. And that cannot happen by looking at a glowing screen. God, help us to set those parameters and to be the people that raise the bar so that others can look and see our example and see you in the process. God, we love you and we thank you. It's in the name of Jesus we pray tonight. Amen.